the Blairing Out with Eric Blair show today, coming to you from NostalgiaCon, the ultimate 80s reunion at the Anaheim Convention Center in beautiful Anaheim, California, with MTV VJ Mark Goodman. Mark, how you doing today?
Doing really good. Having fun.
Now tell me, what do you love about NostalgiaCon 2019?
This is the first con of any kind that I've ever done. And so I'm just fascinated with how people get it off on nostalgia, on 80s nostalgia. It's phenomenal to see. I saw Carrie Ellis here. I see all these famous people that I want to go and check out. It's great. It's fun.
I think that the reason why, and you could tell me if you agree, that people harken back to this time is it was a simpler, friendlier, warmer time.
You know, I think it was always the time that's 20 years before the time we're in is a simpler time. It was a different time for sure, but I think part of the reason for 80s nostalgia in particular is because the 80s nostalgia has gone on longer than the 80s, you know? And I think people just, you love the music and the things associated with your adolescence. And that's what MTV was for everybody who watched, no matter what year it was.
When you first got the gig at MTV, what was the most important thing for you?
For the reason I quit a job in radio to work at MTV. I've been in radio for 6 years already. And what I wanted to do at the time, I remember saying I wanted to be a part of the continued growth of rock and roll. So it meant that the bands, you know, whether it was a punk band or some sort of a new wave band, you know, those things that were emerging, you know, genres at the time, I just wanted to be a part of the outlet that would bring that to people. I always want to look at what's happening next in music. So MTV presented me with that opportunity. People thought I was crazy for leaving a job in New York radio to do this.
Let's talk about Asia, because I'm an Asia fan. What do you remember about that?
Little.
Really? Were you? Oh, really? It was like that?
It was nuts. It was just crazy. I mean, we were in Japan for, I don't know, I guess 5 or 6 days, something like that, in Tokyo. And it was just madness. I mean, part of the craziness, if you remember, was that John Wetton was in a fight with the other guys in the band, so he didn't play.
Yeah.
It was nuts. That was really crazy. But I mean, what an amazing job I had.
Yeah.
I got to go and MC a concert at the Budokan. It's absurd. It was fantastic.
And remember, that was the first concert that was simulcasted all over the world live.
Right, we did simulcast.
You were a part of history.
Yes. Well, I feel like that for MTV, just MTV alone, I feel like I was a part of history. It was a really lucky thing. The Asia show was one of the coolest things I think that we ever did in terms of our promotions. You know, I think we sent a bunch of people over there, and you know, and we got to spend time. That's the only time I've ever been to Japan, and you know, the mayor of Tokyo knew we were there, and he was helping us out. I mean, when does that happen?
Tell me about your relationship with David Lee Roth. I know you guys were good friends in the 80s.
We hung out for a bit. I have to say, I haven't spoken to him in many years. I know that he's been sort of back and forth living in Japan, I understand, and but you know, at the time I hung out with him. I went on the road on his first solo tour. I went on the road with him for a couple of weeks, just to hang out, not to work. And I think Dave is, people don't understand Dave. Dave, you know, his facade is, he's the funniest guy on the planet and he knows it. But he's super smart and really articulate, and I think I love his writing. I've compared his lyrics to Tom Waits, which is crazy, but I've had some conversations with people who understand. He really has a sense of it. So, I mean, I love that about him. I'm hearing that he's talking about going out again. I'm hoping that I get a chance to talk to him again.
He's going to be playing Vegas.
Yeah.
He has, you know about this.
Yeah.
So he just announced that he is now the face of Van Halen.
He's not lying. Who else is? I mean, there's no one out there it's the saddest thing ever to me that there's nobody out there carrying on that catalog, that music. It's really, really a shame. Now, whether Dave is, at this point, the guy to do it, look, he was the original frontman, so why not? But I don't know. I don't know. I'm happy that he's doing it. I really like the solo stuff that he has done, and I just don't see him and Eddie ever getting back together again, and him and Sammy won't, and Eddie won't accept Michael Anthony now because he's played with Sammy. It's just a mess, and it's just a waste where we all lose out, I think.
Well, there's word that Eddie may not be, his health may be declining.
Yeah.
There's a word on, Eddie Trunk has talked about this.
Yeah.
And then also Wolfgang Van Halen,
Yeah.
his son, was supposed to come out with a solo album about 6 months ago. And in the last 3 or 4 months, his Instagram account has not, there's been no updates.
Yeah.
So you got to wonder what's going on, but we will pray for him, correct? And we'll
man.
yeah. So what do you think it was about the MTV VJs of the 80s that captured the imagination of the culture?
That's a tough question. I hope that we were the perfect conduit between the bands and the fans. We were in that weird area because we were in people's living rooms for 5 hours a day, every single day. I used to joke that I had more airtime than Johnny Carson. And I with credit to my VJ pals, I think we all loved music. That came across. We were talking to people who loved music, and we didn't seem like we were trying to set ourselves apart or anything. We were the same as you. We love it like you do.
What do you think were the pros and cons of MTV's Top 20 Countdown? Because that essentially shifted MTV from seeing random cool videos and learning about new bands to these 20 bands that kind of got rotated over and over again. How did you feel about that?
I felt great about it because I hosted that.
No.
And it was the first show that MTV ever did that was syndicated to broadcast television. So I felt great about it. And it was the perfect thing. Nobody thought about video. They sort of were around, but nobody thought about it. And why not? Videos were the songs of the 80s. Obviously they are songs, but there was a whole other part with those videos, and people fell in love with the videos as well as the songs. So why not? A countdown. We should have a countdown. Do we all love countdowns? Countdown anything. I don't care. For SiriusXM, I'm working at Volume, a talk channel about music, and I do a live show every weekday afternoon, 4 p.m. Eastern to 7. And every week we do a top 5, and a top 5, it was Bruce week all this past week because Bruce just turned 70. So we did top 5 Tuesday. We always do it. So we did top 5 songs that mention cars. Nice. We don't just do top 5 Bruce songs. That's too easy. Everybody does that. No, top 5 songs that mention cars. We did a thing on The Who when The Who were starting their tour. So we did top 5 screams. And we do that kind of stuff. Everybody loves a countdown. Got to do it.
How's Sirius treating you? You've been there, 16 years?
15 years.
15 years.
I've worked at Sirius for 15 years, and it's great. I've been working for Volume, this talk channel about music, for actually like 3 weeks. It'll be 3 years that channel's existed. And it's hard as hell. It's talk radio, live 3 hours every day. So it's a lot of work. It's not what I got into radio for. I got into radio to just hang out and play music, But this is a lot of work, but it's phenomenal. In fact, there's a group of people over here. These are some of my listeners.
Nice.
For Volume who came down to say hello. And this group of people that we've gotten together who listen to our show and listen to that channel are phenomenal people. They're music passionate, and they're really into it, and calls, and it's great. It's just, that's the greatest thing for me now about working at Sirius, is that I get to do that. Of course, I'm on the 80s channel, got to be there, and happy to be. But this is the new thing that I love.
A Duran Duran moment.
I got nothing. You just talk to Nina about that, or Martha.
Okay, so they got more. They're more.
Yeah, I like Duran Duran, and I've certainly, I interviewed Simon and a bunch of times and have followed them. I think they're really great. I think that they have somehow been able to do really great music all these years later.
Yeah.
So for that alone, I think they're great. I'm trying to think if there's anything wild that ever happened with, I don't know, I remember having dinner at this club on the East River with Simon right after that famous boating accident when he almost died.
Yeah.
So I just remember chatting with him over dinner about that, but that's about all.
What is the secret to doing a great interview for you?
Prepare and listen.
Right, this is the Blairing Out with Eric Blair show at the NostalgiaCon 2019 with Mark Goodman.
Hey, with me, it's me.
Signing off.
The Blairing Out Show.